What's up guys, Tundrum here, back with another video. Today I am going to be showing you my insane Azusa Lost But Seeking Turbo Ramped Commander deck. This deck is busted in terms of ramp. It does run out of cards relatively quickly in the early game, but then late game, once you've got the mana, you get massive draw spells and everything. It's just like land, ramp, land, bomb, attack, kill, GG. Like, it's pretty insane. It's going to be split into 5 sections. The ramp section, just full of ramp stuff. The utility section with things like removal, card draw. The bomb section, which is just like real late game OP stuff like blightsteel colossus and stuff. The mana section, which is pretty simple, it just is a couple non-basics I suggest running. Apart from that, it's just forests. And the pay-to-win section, which if you've got any of these cards or are willing to make the investment, they're insane, includes like Ugin, Ulamog, and also Blightsteel Colossus. That's not actually in the bomb section, it's in the pay-to-win section. Yeah, so let's get into it. Azusa is our commander. She is a 3 mana 1/2 legendary creature human monk with a really busted ability that you can play 2 additional lands each turn. So you can play up to 3 lands every turn with her. It's extremely powerful, great for ramping, and she is why we are building this deck. I reckon probably the best ramp commander. First up, we've got Llanowar Elves. This is essential in pretty much any green deck, let alone a ramp one. It's really good. Just a single green 1/1, taps for a green, real solid. Want to be running this. There's Elvish Mystic as well. That's just like Llanowar Elves, same reasons we're running it. Llanowar Tribe, it is a 3 mana free that taps for free green. Really insane, really powerful. It is a free drop, which means it will be competing with Azusa, but it's still really solid. Lorus Cobra, busted ramp. It's a 2 mana 2/1. So imagine if you get this out on turn 1 or 2, and then follow up with an Azusa. And then you just go land. You then have 6 mana, tap all your lands and ramp pieces. Then you have like 12 or 13 mana, and then just bring out a bomb on turn 3 or 4. Really busted. Next up, we have Kadama's Reach. Kadama's Reach, you know, just essential ramp spell. Really good. Cultivate, same reasons as Kadama Reach. You get a basic in your hand and the battlefield tapped. Really solid, good ramp spell. Needed to be used in pretty much every green deck. This is Pilgrimage. This one is pretty much the same as Cultivating Kadama's Reach, except in this case, since we are running just mono green, it's actually better, because if you have Spell Mastery online, you get to search for free lands, put 2 into your hand and 1 onto the battlefield. Khalni Heart Expedition. This is essentially on turn 3 you get 2 basics, because if you play this on turn 2, or even turn 1, if you have like some busted ramp combo, and then play Azusa the next turn, then just land, you sack it, get 2 more lands. Really busted. Courser of Crufix. Now this card is already good, but in this deck it is insane. The amount of cards you can draw with it is ridiculous. You can get like 3 to 4, maybe even 5 cards in a turn just because of this card. You just land, life, really solid. Solemn Simulacrum, also kind of essential. It's just auto-include in any deck. 4 mana 2/2, gets you a basic, and when it dies, draw a card. Real solid. Soul Ring, also pretty much an auto-include. It's been run in almost every commander deck ever, with a few minor exceptions. Busted 1-drop ramp. Moss Diamond, 2 mana artifact, enters tapped and taps for green. Really solid turn 2 play, and if you get Soul Ring or an Ancient Tomb or something on turn 1, also good to play on turn 1. Cage Sun. Now this is the Mirari's Wake equivalent, but just for monocolours. It gives all your creatures 1/1, and if one of your lands gives you green, you get another green pretty much, because you choose green as the colour. Really solid bomb, and doubles all our mana. Mind Stone, a really solid ramp piece, 2 mana, tap for colourless, and then you can also pay 1 and tap it to draw, and sacrifice. Pay 1 to tap and draw a card would be busted. Pay 1 to tap and sacrifice it to draw a card if you have no further use for it late game. Hedron Archive, double the mana but taps for double. You pay double and draw double. Then Mindstone, 4 mana, tap for 2, pay 2, crack it, draw 2 cards, solid. Dreamstone Hedron, pretty much the next level version of that. 6 mana, tap to add 3, pay 3, and sacrifice it to draw 3 cards. Unstable Obelisk. This is real solid. It's a 3 mana tap for colorless artifact, which isn't that good. But then if you pair it with the ability that for a mere 7 mana, which in this deck isn't really that much, it's pretty much the equivalent of 3 mana in any regular deck, and crack it, you get a solid removal, destroying any permanent once it has no further use. You then have Emerald Medallion. Really solid, makes not 80-90% of our spells cost 1 less, except for the colourless mana rocks and the few eldrazi we're running. And then finally in the ramp section we have Felwar Stone. It's 2 mana, taps to add to your mana pool 1 mana of any colour that a land an opponent controls could produce. So this pretty much either says tap for green or colourless, depending if one of your opponents is green. Still really solid, especially if it enters untapped. Next up we have the utility section. This is a bunch of like good utility cards, draw spells, life, creatures, just good utility. So first up we have Retreat to Karandu. This is a 3 mana enchantment with landfall, and this deck is really good for landfall because you're normally going to be getting 2 or 3 landfall triggers in a turn. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you either get a put a 1/1 counter on target creature or gain 2 life. This doesn't seem that good straight off the bat, but when you're pairing it with getting 3 lands or 2 lands a turn, this is real solid. Gaining 6 life with 3 1/1 counters or mixing it up is really solid. Next up we have Jedi Offshoot, good 1-drop, 1 mana 0/3 defender. We do want defenders to survive early game damage, as sometimes we don't manage to ramp that fast and don't manage to get any bombs till turn 5 or 6. So defender is good. And then it also has the large upside of whenever a land enters the battlefield under our control, we gain 1 life, furthering its defensive ability. Very solid defensive card. Next up we have the Immortal Sun. This card is busted. 6 mana for a legendary artifact with this much text, and all of it is extremely relevant. It's insane. Players can't activate Planeswalkers' loyalty abilities, essentially destroy all opponents' Planeswalkers, because we don't run any. At the beginning of your draw step, you draw an extra card. Also busted. Then your spells cost 1 less, even more insane, and on top of all of that, all your creatures get 1/1. Immortal Sun is insane. Make sure to run it. Next up we have Seer's Sundial, 4 mana artifact with landfall. Whenever a land is battlefield under your control, you may pay 2 if you do draw a card. This is really solid in this deck, seeing we have so much mana, and it lets us hit all our land drops. Play a land, tap that land and 1 other, draw a card. Play a land, tap that land and 1 other, draw a card. It can really stack up the cards pretty quick. Next up we have Song of the Dryads, really solid green removal. It's 3 mana to enchant a permanent, and the permanent becomes a colourless forest land. It does ramp them, but this is also especially good if you're doing it on a commander. Shuts down the commander for a long time until they can somehow remove a land, and it can also destroy major threats if they're getting too scary. Seasons Past, busted graveyard reanimation card. It is 6 mana, which is the main downside, but in this deck when we have that much mana, late game once we put a bunch of things in the graveyard, then turn 7 or 8 we play this and just get 7 or 8 cards and do it all again. It's really powerful. Next up we have Harmonize, just solid card, 4 mana, draw 3 cards, used in most green decks, just real solid, want to be running it. Next up, Eternal Witness. Eternal Witness also run in most green decks, well in Commander at least. Really solid, 3 mana 2/1 that gives you a card back from your graveyard to your hand. The 2/1 isn't that viable, but just the card back to your hand is still decent. Lifecrafter's Bestiary, 3 mana artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep you get a scry 1, which is solid, and then you also have the ability to pay 1 whenever you cast a creature spell, and if you do, you draw a card. Solid, very good card, a lot of value in it. Zendikar Resurgent, another busted card, a lot like Caged Sun. 7 mana enchantment. Whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana to your mana pool of any type that land produced. So it's essentially doubles all your mana, which is busted. And then you also have the huge upside of whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. This can really go off in a lot of times. You play a creature draw, store heaps mana, play a creature draw, run out of creatures, next turn draw a creature draw. It's insane busted card. Next up we have Rishkar's Expertise. a 6 mana sorcery where you draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control, and plus you may cast a card with converted mana cost 5 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. So this essentially says you probably won't be playing this till turn 6 or 7, but then you're going to have a big creature normally like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, something massive power. You play this, draw a ridiculous amount of cards, get more free mana to summon something with the free cards. This card's busted, really powerful bomb. Next up we have Seek the Horizon. Seek the Horizon is a really solid draw spell. 4 mana, you get free basic lands. Normally this wouldn't seem that good, but in this deck drawing free basic lands is pretty much just drawing free cards. And by turn 4 we will start to be struggling, running out of lands in our hand. So this really refills us for a turn or two, really solid. Next up we have Iula's Influence. Iula's Influence is a really solid enchantment because it only has 1 word of text, discard a land card to create a 2/2 bear, which normally doesn't seem very good, like not very good at all. But in our deck, late game, we're going to have a lot of lands in our hand. Well, probably not, but we'll have a couple lands in our hand and draw a land, we don't want it. We'll draw a ramp spell that'll put us lands in our hand, and then we will just want to, they have no further use, so we might as well discard them to get bears, get value. Next up we have Widening Way. It's a 2 mana sorcery, and you choose creature or land, probably normally land, but not always. And then you get the top 4 cards, and all the cards of that go into your hand. You might dud only get 1 or no cards, but you could also go insane and get 3 or 4 cards off this 1 card, which makes it insane. Because we are running, I think, 42 or 43 lands. In fact, you could even up that, because that's, like, not too many. But it also makes the deck slightly weaker less game, but more consistent early game. Next up we have Regrowth. Just like Eternal Witness, probably better in our deck. 2 mana, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Solid reanimation spell, especially on something like Rishkar's Expertise. Really powerful. Next up we have Wall of Blossoms. This card is not insane, but it's really solid because we want blockers early game, like I said, for aggro, and we probably don't want to be wasting our precious cards on Defender. So a 2 mana 0/4 that draws us a card is really solid. And so yeah, Wall of Blossoms is really solid. And that's the end of the utility section. Now we are on to bomb section. First up we have the Avenger of Zendikar. This card is insane. It is a 7 mana 5/5 elemental, and when it enters the battlefield you get a 0/1 plant for each land you control. Even just that in this deck wouldn't really be that bad. You get a bunch of 0/1 blockers, but what makes this really good is whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a 1/1 counter on each plant you control. This is, like, honestly, insane. Like, 7 mana to get 7 or 8 0/1s and a 5/5, it's busted. Then the next turn you play 3 lands, they all become 3/4s, and then you just have a massive army and wreck them. This card is one of the best bombs we could possibly draw, probably even better than an Eldrazi Titan. Next up we have Rampaging Baloths. This is also insane. A 6 mana 6/6 trample, and whenever a land enters the battlefield under our control, is really good. On turn 6 probably turn 4 you play this, maybe even turn 3. Then next turn you drop your 3 lands. That's all of a sudden 18 power trample on the board. Oh wait, no, 18 power, some of it trample on the board. That is busted. Next turn you get more. If they don't deal with this card immediately, you pretty much auto win. Next up we have Baloth Woodcrasher. This card I was a bit skeptical about, but I think it's worth it. You drop this in turn 4, and then next turn, you play your 3 lands, and you've got a 16/16 trample hitting at one of your opponents. It's probably not going to be a 16/16 every turn, but a lot of the time it's going to be 12/12, 8/8, really solid. Next up we have Platinum Imperium. An 8 mana 8/8 artifact creature golem. Doesn't seem that good, but then when it says your life total can't change, for as long as it's on the field, you've just got infinite defenses pretty much. Really powerful card. Your life total can't change can very rarely though actually be a downside, because we have things like Jedi Offshoot, Retreat to Karandu, Courser of Crufix, but most of the time it's just a massive upside. Next up we have Worldspine Wurm. 11 mana 15/15 trample, and when it dies you get 3 5/5s, is pretty powerful. It does have the downside of being shuffling it when it's gone into its owner's library, so you can't just play like a regrow for Seasons Past and get it back, but it is still really insane. And especially with our ramp, if we're dropping this on turn 3, 4 or 5, they're probably going to lose. There is only 1 or 2 combos in the entire deck that can get it on turn 3, but even then 4 or 5 is real busted. Next up we have Void Winnower, a 9 mana 11/9 eldrazi with not letting your opponents cast spells with even converted mana cost, and they can't block with creatures with even converted mana cost, is pretty insane. This card's extremely powerful, shuts off half of your opponent's deck, is really good. Next up we have Worldbreaker, a 7 mana 5/7 eldrazi with Devoid, and when you cast it, not when it enters, when you cast, so even if they counter this, you still get this trigger, you get to exile target artifact, enchantment or land, which is really solid, good removal. And then it also has reach, and then you can also pay 2 and a colorless. Colorless mana we can quite easily get in this deck due to all our mana rocks. And you pay 2 and a colorless, sacrifice a land to return it from your graveyard to your hand once it's dead. Really solid card. Next up we have Ulvenwald Hydra, a 6 mana creature Hydra with reach, where its power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control, which can pretty quickly get out of hand, 12 or 13 lands. And then also, when it enters, you get to search for a land and put it into play tap. And this is any land, not just a basic, which is a pretty big upside, but I don't think it's that big of an upside. Like, if you're from the full Gaia's Cradle or Ancient Tomb or something like that, it is, like, better than a basic. But yeah, really good card. Next up we have Greenwarden of Murasa, a 6 mana 5/4, with when it enters it returns a card from your graveyard to your hand, is already pretty solid. And then it also has the upside of when it dies you can exile it if you do return to a card from your graveyard to your hand. Really solid card, really solid. Next up we have Finale of Devastation. We're not technically one of the big creatures by itself, it normally is, you normally cast it as one. So it's X and green. You search your library or graveyard for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less and put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. But then it also has the upside of, if X is 10 or more, which realistically that's not that hard, 12 mana, pretty easy to get in this deck. If X is 10 or more, your creatures get XX and gain haste. So you pay this for 12, you get, let's say, what's a solid card? Craterhoof Behemoth, which is in the pay to win section, and you have 3 or 4 creatures on the field. All your things get 4/4 and you massive swing. Then they all get 10/10. Your opponents are dead. Or, like, any good bomb with this is just insane if you have X as 10 or more, really solid. Next up we have Green Sun Zenith, pretty much the same, except it only searches your library, only searches for green creatures, and doesn't have the upside of the 10/10, but it does cost 1 less, which is more or less a massive upside. And then you shuffle it into your owner's library, really solid card. Next up we have Terrestodon. It's 8 mana 9/9 elephant. When it enters the battlefield you may destroy up to 3 target permanents, non-creature permanents, sorry. For each permanent put into a graveyard this way, its controller gets a free elephant creature. Really solid, can turn stuff we don't want anymore, like lands or bulk artifacts, into free-freeze. And then it can also deal with threat artifacts, lands and enchantments. Solid card. Next up we have Artisan of Kozilek, a 9 mana 10/9, with when you cast it, remember this still happens if it gets countered, you return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and it has the Titanic upside of Annihilator 2. This card's really good. Next up we have Howl of the Night Pack. This is a 7 mana sorcery that essentially says put 14 2/2 green wolf creature tokens into play. But then if you also have more lands or more forests, you can then get this like up to, oh not 14, 7 2/2 wolf, sorry. I mean 14 is in 14 power and toughness, but then if you have more, it just gets really busted. This card can get out of hand really quickly, and even if you just cast it for 7 and you have that many basic, it's still a really dominating board state you're getting off 1 card. Next up we have Woodfall Primus, an 8 mana 6/6 Treefolk Shaman with Trample, and then it has the upside of when it comes into play, you get to destroy any non-creature permanent. It's already okay, but then it also has the, like, huge upside of Persist. This essentially says you're paying 8 mana for an 11/11 trample that destroys 2 non-creature permanents. Like, not quite, but it's still really solid. Next up, we have Chameleon Colossus. This is the type of, like, one-shot card you've got. So it's just a 4-mana 4/4 changeling with protection from black, which doesn't seem too scary. But then it has this bottom ability. You pay 4 and essentially double its power and toughness until end of turn. This isn't too good, but in our deck, when you're going to be getting to 12 mana, this becomes 8/8, 16/16, 32/32. Boom, insta-kill. Really busted. And protection from black is also really viable, because a good 50% of removal is in black. Next up, we have Pathbreaker Ibex. This is a 6-mana 3/3 with a huge upside of when it attacks, all your creatures get +X/+X and gain trample until end of turn, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. This is like doubling all your creatures' power and toughness when it attacks, but better. Like, for example, if you have an 11/11 attacking with it, all your stuff gets 11/11. It's like really powerful. Next up, we have Elvish Aberration. This card I was a bit skeptical about running, but the forest cycling is what makes this really good. It's a 6-mana 4/5 elf mutant that taps for free, which is a solid ramp card, also a decent attacker, but then it also has the upside of forest cycling for 2. For example, if you get unlucky and don't have enough forests on turn 3 or 4, you just cycle this and get a land. Next up, we have Sandwurm Convergence. I'm a personal favourite of this card, and I think it's really underrated. It's an 8-mana enchantment. With creatures with flying can't attack you or planeswalkers you control. Then what makes this insane is at your end step you get a 5/5 worm. And this is just on for 2 or 3 turns. It's just generating you massive value. Really powerful. And then the fact that creatures with flying can't attack you or planeswalkers you control is actually really viable too, because there is a lot of flyers in Commander. And our deck doesn't have that much to do against flyers, just like Green normally does. Actually, no, maybe I'm wrong. Green has a lot of flying hate. Next up, we have Planewide Celebration. 7-mana sorcery. I reckon one day this is going to be like a Commander Essential card in any green deck. I invested in heaps of them. It's a 7-mana sorcery. You get to choose 4. You may choose the same mode more than once. You get to choose... You can create a 2/2 citizen, that's all colours. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand, proliferate, or gain 4 life. All of this text on one card is extremely powerful. It's a really solid bomb. And then finally, last but not least, see the Unwritten. This is a 6-mana sorcery. Reveal the top 8 cards of your library, and then you get to put a creature card from among them into the battlefield, and then the rest into your graveyard. Putting them into graveyard is viable with all our graveyard resurrection. This is really solid. You look at 8 and then summon a bomb on for 6 mana. And then the other upside is if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, which is pretty often, a good third of our cards are creatures with power 4 or greater, you get 2 creature cards instead of 1. Imagine looking at top 8 and getting Emrakul and Worldspine Wurm. That's just busted. You just won the game on the spot there, probably. Really insane. And then the actual last is Planar Bridge. It's a 6-mana legendary artifact, and you may pay 8 and tap it to search your library for a permanent card and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. This doesn't seem that good, but when we have pretty much enough mana to do anything, this is just tapping 8 in every turn and getting 11/11, 7/7, like insane, busted. Now we're on to mana base. The mana base here is relatively simple, but there is a couple cards I suggest running. Rogue's Passage, solid, gives your bombs unblockable if they don't have trample, or if you just want to hit them for heaps and get lethal, easy. Solid card. Temple of the False God, really solid. We're almost always going to have 5 or more lands, so it's essentially tap to add 2 mana on turn 3 or later. Havenwood Battleground, this is okay, but it enters tap, which is a downside, but then if you're also in desperate need for ramp, as well as tapping for a green, you can sacrifice it to add double green. And then also, if you can afford them, Ancient Tomb and Gaia's Cradle, as you know, are like probably the 2 best lands in the game. You want to be running those if you can afford them. Now finally onto the pay to win section. These cards are normally all about $20 or more, but they are all insane cards. If you have them or can afford them or willing to make the investment, they're insane. Like, almost any of these, if you play them, you probably just win the game. We'll play them early at least. Ugin the Spirit Dragon, 8 mana, 7 loyalty planeswalker, +2, deal 3 damage to any target, -X, exile each permanent with converted mana cost to X or less than 1 or more colours, and -10, you gain 7 life, draw 7 cards, and then put up to 7 permanent cards from your hand onto your battlefield. Really solid planeswalker, if you can get them, really powerful. Next up we have Karn Liberated, another busted planeswalker like Ugin, 7 mana, 6 loyalty, +4, target player exiles a card from their hand, -3, exile target permanent, and then -14, restart the game, leaving in exile all non-aura permanent cards exiled with Karn Liberated, then put those cards onto the battlefield under your control. That just says you win the game, honestly, unless you're getting couple creatures, and then your enemy has Swords to Plowshares, past feet, something like that. You'll probably just win if you do that. Next up, we have Dark Depths. Now you're like, why are you running Dark Depths? Tundrum, you're a fool. This card is only good if you've got cheating cards like Vampire Hexmage. Nah, stuff that. We're just doing it the old-fashioned way. 30 mana, easy. So get the 2020, just hardcore mana caster, easy card. Next up, we have Ulvenwald the Ceaseless Hunger. 10 mana, legendary creature eldrazi, 10/10. When you cast it, you exile to up to 2 target permanents. Has indestructible, and then plus when it attacks, defending player exiles the top 20 cards of their deck. Really solid card. Can threaten to mill them out if they have enough chump blockers for it. 10/10 indestructible, already good, and exiling 2 permanents. Insane bomb, you want to be running him. Next up we have Kozilek, Butcher of Truth. 10 mana, 12/12 with Annihilator 4, and then it has the titanic upside of drawing you 4 cards. It's really powerful. Next up we have Blightsteel Colossus, 12 mana, 11/11, trample infect with indestructible, and then it has the downside of shuffling in just like most of these cards, but it is really powerful. 12 mana, 11/11, trample infect indestructible, really good. Next up we have Emrakul the Promised End, 13 mana, 13/13, it costs 1 less to cast for each card type among cards in your graveyard, and then you can also, when you cast it, you gain control of target opponent during that player's next turn. They do get an extra turn after that, but after gaining control of their turn, they're probably just going to lose. You're probably going to sabotage all their stuff. Then you have also the huge upsides of it, flying and trample, and then protection from instants. Almost all removal is instants, or about 3/4, so she's really hard to destroy. Next up we have Craterhoof Behemoth, 8 mana, 5/5, haste, and when it enters, creatures you control get +X and gain gain trample until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. Really busted. If you have 3 or 4 things on the field when you play this, you're just going to get a massive swing out of it. Next up we have Archroma's Memorial, turns all your bombs into Archroma, Angel of Wrath, which is insane. They all become super bombs. Gives all your creatures flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, haste, and protection from black and from red. It's insane. You want to be running this. Next up we have Ulamog, the Infinite Grier. 11 mana, 10/10. When you cast it, destroy target permanent. It also is indestructible and Annihilator 4. Solid. Not quite as good as other Ulamog, but still really powerful card. Next up we have It That Betrays. A 12 mana, 11/11. Eldrazi with Annihilator 2 is already not terrible, but then it also has the huge upside of whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent, you gain control of it. This is really powerful. We have a couple of Annihilator cards. They'll probably be sacrificing things amongst each other, playing like Barter and Blood on each other and stuff, and then you have this, really powerful. Next up we have Tooth and Nail. This essentially says 9 mana, you search for 2 creature cards and put them into play. Or you can cast it for 7, search your library for 2 creature cards and put them into your hand, or put 2 creature cards from your hand into play. This is really solid. If you cast it for the 9 mana, you're going to be getting Worldspine Wurm and like Vorinclex or something. Just 2 insane bombs, probably wins you the game. Next up we have Vorinclex, Voice of Hunger. 8 mana, 7/6 with trample, doubles all your mana again, more insane ramp, and then also whenever an opponent taps a land for mana, that land doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Really solid. All is dust, each player sacrifices all coloured permanents he or she controls, solid board wipe, Next up, finally, we have Stonehoof Chieftain. This isn't really pay to win, actually. It's only about $10, but it's a really solid card. An 8 mana 8/8 with Trample and Indestructible, and whenever another creature you control attacks, it gains Trample and Indestructible until end of turn. Really solid card. And yeah, thanks for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos from me, and yeah, peace out.